On June 6th in Miami, Floyd Mayweather Jr., one of, if not the best boxers of all time, will go up against Logan Paul. To say that the fight is a mismatch is a huge understatement. Logan Paul, standing at 6'2" and roughly 200 pounds, will have 6 inches and 50 pounds on the smaller Mayweather Jr. But experts aren't exactly worried about the former champ's safety. Floyd "Money" Mayweather Jr. is widely regarded as the greatest defensive boxer in history, sustaining very little damage throughout his career. He has been labeled as a master technician, capable of picking apart professional boxers and making them look silly at times trying to land punches. Logan, on the other hand, has fought professionally only once, in a split decision loss to amateur fighter KSI. Floyd has been a master of building hype for the better part of his 43 years on the planet, while Logan has fought only twice before. So why is Floyd taking this fight if he so clearly is the favorite? Well, his nickname isn't Money for nothing. He's always been a businessman and probably saw Logan's brother Jake take home an impressive amount of cash in his fight against former UFC fighter Ben Askren. Besides, Floyd is no stranger to huge showdowns. Just look back at his exhibition fight against the highest paid athlete in the world, Conor McGregor, back in 2017. Many are asking if by some miracle Logan Paul can add a 1 to Floyd's 50-0 professional boxing record, and the answer, sadly, is no. The fight is simply an exhibition, meaning that no matter what happens, that 50-0 record isn't budging. But how prepared is Logan Paul for this fight? And what do we know about the young boxer heading into the event? Let's take a look. The Paul brothers drew the world's attention all the way back in February of 2018, when the two were drawn into the amateur boxing world by KSI, who called them out after winning the YouTube Boxing Championship fight. The event was a huge success, with over 1.6 million viewers watching it live. Seeing the opportunity to grow their brand even further, Logan agreed to fight KSI for the YouTube Boxing Championship belt, and their two younger siblings, Jake and Deji, joined the card as a co-main event. The fight would be slated for August 25th of that same year, and the lead-up only raised the anticipation. 2 press conferences were held, with trash-talking exchanged by both sides, escalating the event. The event was held at the Manchester Arena in England, with YouTube streaming it as a pay-per-view priced at $10. In the co-main event, Jake Paul would defeat Deji via technical knockout in the 5th round after Deji's corner threw in the towel. The performance raised eyebrows for many, as Jake showed real skill as a boxer, dominating Deji as the fight went on. Jake Paul would end up winning the YouTube Championship belt. The main event between Jake's older brother Logan and KSI was a much closer fight than the last, with both men landing punches throughout the match. The match was largely uneventful, besides a second-round jab by KSI that Jake thought was after the bell, and he entered the ring to voice his anger at KSI. The fight would go through all the rounds, and the 15,000 people in attendance were eager to see who was declared the winner. In an odd turn of events, the fight was ruled a majority draw in favor of KSI, meaning that no winner would be awarded, and the belt would stay with KSI. Only one judge ruled in favor of KSI with a scorecard of 58-57, while the other 2 judges scored the fight even at 57-57. Boos rained down as fans felt that the scores were fixed to build hype for a potential rematch and more money. Shortly after, fans would be proven right about that, as a rematch was scheduled for November 9th, 2019. The rematch would have the benefit of being licensed as a professional boxing match, meaning the headguards would not have to be worn and the gloves would be lighter. This interested fans, as the likelihood of a knockout was much higher, and all they had to do was wait a few months to see the rematch in Los Angeles. Not all were happy when the rematch was announced as being a professional fight. Many in the boxing community felt that it was an insult to boxing, something that would be continually said throughout Jake and Logan's boxing careers. What angered boxing fans even more was that the undercard to the rematch featured fights with legitimate title belts on the line. Some in the community, including current champions Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, supported the event, since it would bring new eyes onto a, quote, stagnant sport. Floyd would cross paths with Logan for the first time in the rematch, with his uncle Jeff Mayweather helping to train KSI for the fight. This, along with the addition of actual boxers, made the event feel more real than the last one, with KSI and Logan being the only 2 YouTubers issued professional boxing licenses, angering some in the YouTube community who felt that this should have been a, quote, YouTube event. The fight opened with the fanfare that you would have expected from the 2 YouTubers. Logan was led out to the ring by his brother Jake and Justin Bieber, decked out in American flag trunks like the ones featured in the original Rocky movie. KSI would show up in a black and red robe, complete with a matching mask, and was led out by rappers Rick Ross and Lil Baby. The second fight would be much much more action-packed and just as close as the first. The genuine boxing atmosphere filled the Staples Center and the tension was high from the opening bell. KSI dominated the opening 3 rounds and he fought much more aggressively than Logan, who seemed content to just throw jabs and always seemed to be fighting off his back foot. Logan slipped onto the mat twice in the 3rd round and was struck by an overhand right that hit Logan right behind the ear, messing with his balance and sending him to the ground, but no knockdown was awarded. In the 4th round, things shifted to Logan's favor and he landed a clean uppercut on KSI. He would follow up with another uppercut, but then would follow it up with an illegal blow that sent KSI to the floor. Logan would hit him again in the back of the head and then once more when he was on the floor, all of which is illegal in boxing. The referee deducted Logan's points, as well as allowing KSI time to recover since the blows that hurt him were all against the rules. The round, which was scored at a 10-8 in favor of Logan, was now tied at 8-8, a huge blow for Logan's chances at winning. The 5th round was very close, with Logan aggressively landing jabs and KSI for the most part staying out of trouble. The 6th and final round was hectic and crazy. Both KSI and Logan were unsure where they stood on the scorecard and tried to take the judges out of the decision and go for the knockout. Both men swung wildly at each other, but neither connected in any significant way. The judges scored the fight extremely close. Logan won on a judge's scorecard 55-56, but the other 2 judges ruled in favor of KSI with scores of 56-55 and 57-54. Logan ultimately lost the fight, mostly because of the points he was deducted from the illegal blows, but some would argue that he wouldn't have scored a knockdown at all if it had not been for his illegal strategy. While Logan would not fight again after his first professional loss to KSI, his brother Jake would soon get his first professional fight under his belt. On January 30th, 2020, Jake would fight fellow YouTuber Anderson Gibb. The fight was an impressive one for Jake, who dominated the unprepared Gibb. Jake would yet again end the fight via TKO in the 1st round, and Jake would get his first professional win as a boxer. Jake would continue to embrace his newfound passion for boxing, jumping into the undercard for the Mike Tyson vs. Roy Jones Jr. fight expected to go down on November 28, 2020. And Jake would fight former NBA player and slam dunk champion Nate Robinson. Jake held a sizable weight and height advantage over the undersized guard and would yet again get his opponent with a forceful knockout, this time in the middle of the 2nd round. By this time, a lot of buzz surrounded Jake, who had overtaken Logan as the face of boxing in the family. Jake was making a lot of money boxing and had found a way to keep his relevance even as his YouTube channel started to decline. Jake embraced the role as a villain and acknowledged that most people paying to watch him fight were hoping to see him lose. After exchanging words on social media with Ben Askren, Jake would return to the ring on April 17, 2021 in Atlanta. He would be headlining the fight card with musical performances by Justin Bieber, Doja Cat, and more. The fight would be streamed on Triller for $49.99 and held up its end of the bargain as an event, even if there wasn't much boxing on the card. The MMA community was rooting for Ben Askren, but die-hard fans questioned the matchup since even as Bellator champion, Ben wasn't known for his striking. On top of that, the wrestler was coming off a serious injury and was unable to train for the fight. None of this seemed to matter to Jake, who came out with an 8-foot-tall robot that looked like him. The fight was short-lived, with Jake landing an impressive right hand that sent Ben down hard onto the mat. Although the fighter would get up before the 10-second count, he would be deemed unable to continue by the referee, and Jake was awarded the victory. Jake, as well as Triller, made a ton of money on the fight, but still faced some piracy issues that they are unwilling to take lying down. On April 23rd, Triller filed a lawsuit against over a dozen sites for pirating their event, most interesting among them being the H3 podcast. Although podcast host Ethan Klein would tweet out his innocence, saying that he paid for it, he would later delete the tweet, probably because on the Frenemies podcast, he admitted to bootlegging the fight while voicing his anger that the ref called the fight so early. Since Ethan didn't broadcast the fight to others, he can simply pay the $49.99 and avoid legal action altogether, but many question the legitimacy of the lawsuit, stating that Ethan is saying he pirated it in passing and there's no proof that he pirated the fight at all. Others speculate that Triller, which Jake actually has equity in, is going after Ethan personally since he has not been shy about speaking up about the Jake's sexual assault accusation. And for a while, that was the story, until an attorney by the name of Emily D. Baker went through the court's response on her YouTube channel and found that besides the court not really taking the lawsuit seriously, that almost everyone accused, including H3, were cleared of any wrongdoing. While we may not know the motivations behind the lawsuit, we know that H3 will not be facing any consequences for his comments on the event. No matter what is happening outside the ring, inside of it, Jake is now at an impressive 3-0 professionally, with each of his victories by knockout, causing many to scratch their heads that Floyd would choose to fight Logan and not Jake. Many speculate that Floyd will fight Jake after defeating Logan, since that fight would be much more exciting, and Floyd beating Logan would create more drama and an opportunity for Jake to look like the good guy by defending his brother's honor. Even if many are hoping to skip ahead to that fight, the Paul brothers are doing their best to build the hype of Logan's fight with Floyd. Their most recent stunt being the press conference between the two fighters. The majority of the conference focused on the two exchanging insults with one another, with Logan calling out Floyd's past and his domestic abuse charge being the most exciting part of the conference, and Floyd talking about the suicide forest. That is until Jake got involved by first untying Floyd's shoes when he was on stage. After the conference, Jake and Floyd get up close and personal, with Floyd saying that he will fight both of Jake and Logan in the same night and that they were going to set it up, and both were down, and then all of a sudden, Jake snatches Floyd's hat and attempts to run off with it. He doesn't get far, however, before Floyd's notoriously huge and aggressive bodyguards get a hold of Jake and rough him up a bit while Floyd actually sneaks a punch right in Jake's face. Right after the fight stopped, Floyd can be heard saying he will kill Jake and the gang will come to get him too. In photos posted after the press conference, Jake looks to have suffered a few cuts and bruises from Floyd's team. Jake then took to Twitter to say that Floyd's goons may be out to get him. Nevertheless, the stunt did get a lot of attention towards the fight, just not the one between Floyd and Logan. If Floyd didn't plan on fighting Jake before, he sure does now, and I'm sure that's just what Jake wanted from all of this. Jake would later commemorate the event with a new tattoo, picturing a hat and the words, "Gotcha hat." Well, that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give us a thumbs up and let us know in the comments what you'd like to see in the future. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification button so you never miss any great content like this. Catch you in the next video.